worst hunger is in Kotido, Morota and Kabong districts. Here, more than 1 child in 2 aged under 5 is badly malnourished. In district hospitals, you see children half their normal weight. Their lifeline to survival is a feeding tube. Prolonged drought, waves of locusts and African armyworms, and predatory armed groups have ravaged this impoverished area, leaving no food for people to eat. Nangolelo Pwond, a mother of 6, lost her 1-year-old child last year.
I went to sell charcoal and I instructed the grown child to stay with the small ones until I came back. When I came back, I found out that the child was already dead. What could I do?
The 3-year-old child next to her is also malnourished.
The child was not sick. It was purely the hunger that killed him. Even this one is on the brink of death.
The family's food mainly comes from wild grasses which grow nearby, but which often cause diarrhea. From time to time, the family also gets plumpy-nut, a ready-to-use therapeutic food for the malnourished. Malnutrition can have a devastating impact on a child's long-term development.
If we don't do something right now, then if they survive by chance, then we don't expect a very good human capital in the future, because these kids will not do well in school. They will be stunted, and the development, brain and everything will be compromised.
The situation is dire, and authorities are struggling to get to the grips with the scale of it all.
In terms of acute malnutrition, in this year we have experienced the worst that we have had in the last 10 years. And we are tracing this back to the issues around climate change. We have also experienced increasing pockets of insecurity as well as common childhood illnesses.
3 years into the crisis, the Ugandan Ministry of Health and the local authorities, supported by UNICEF, are now organizing mass screenings in the area. In this village, the health workers spotted malnourished children, who will now be put in special programs to help them. A week ago, this area was parched. Today it's green, a sign that even a little rain can change nature in an instant. But the problem is timing and resources. The locals say they have nothing to plant now. And it's not just the drought, pests and insecurity that are causing hunger, but also the cost of food. The rapidly rising prices of commodities is increasing the numbers of hungry in this corner of Uganda. Help, say experts, is needed now.
This pangolin was rescued during a police operation against traffickers who prey on the threatened animal for its scales, which are usually sold in Asia. In the hands of poachers, pangolins can spend weeks in captivity. Under-exercised and underfed, they're left weak and traumatised. Lumbi will remain under observation in this veterinary hospital outside Johannesburg, which specialises in the protection of the indigenous species.
We haven't yet figured out exactly what the parasite is, but he's suffering from a blood parasite. And what the blood parasite is doing is destroying his red blood cells, so it's making him anemic. And we've been trying to cope with that.
To avoid an attack by poachers, the address of this facility is kept secret, and they treat all sorts of native wildlife, but the pangolin is the most threatened. Its scales are made of keratin and are mistakenly believed to have medicinal qualities. The species is also poorly understood, despite having existed for an estimated 80 million years.
The actual veterinary medicine and rehabilitation process hasn't been well documented at all, and very little is actually known about the African species, our 4 species here in Africa. So the better we can do it and the more we can document, the more we're learning about the species. And don't forget, this is a critically endangered species. We don't know how many pangolins are left on the planet.
The pangolin is the only mammal with scales, and it lives in the wild in Asia and Africa. It feeds almost exclusively on ants and termites. Here in this reserve, a fresh supply of flying ants makes for a feast.
They generally only come out after good rains, so it's not something that's always available. So so it is quite a pangolin delicacy.
Now fully recovered, Steve the pangolin is preparing for his return to the wild. Under the watchful eye of Gareth, he's out to find food and gain enough weight back to defend himself against predators. Releasing the pangolins is a delicate process, and walks like these are crucial to prepare them for their new lives back where they belong. In a fit of rage, this man goes to grab his wife, but not before these two volunteer policewomen intervene. He is quickly neutralised as the members of this community force wait for backup, which could be an hour away. Though this is a drill, this kind of intervention is now a reality thanks to an initiative launched in 2011 called La Musica. It's an all-female unit specifically trained to combat domestic violence.
One woman's problem is the problem of all women. So we are fighting for women to escape humiliation, to know their rights, to fight for those rights, and to have gender equality.
In Mozambique, nearly half of all women are married off before their 18th birthday, according to the UN, and nearly 1 in 5 is a victim of domestic violence. It's against the law, but in remote villages like this one, perpetrators often act with impunity.
Antes mesmo de começarmos a trabalhar com a música aqui, as mulheres.
Before we started working with La Musica here, women did not see violence as oppression. They saw it as part of a culture where, when a person gets married, any harm done to them is considered normal.
Tudo o que é feito do mal, tudo é bom porque é na cultura.
The women's unit rarely uses force. It aims to resolve most conflicts through talking. After 12 years of campaigning, of awareness raising amongst families, violence has decreased. In the early years, there were many cases of violence, but now we have only about 1 case per month. More than catching perpetrators, the unit prioritises educating and listening to women. Survivors of abuse can come to the association's headquarters for support. In a community with a culture of silence, spaces like this can be life-saving.